So today we'll be working. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 8 of this book, Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. Before we start, let's do a small invocation prayer. Just close your eyes, hands in your Namaste position, and just take a nice deep breath and silently repeat after me to the Supreme God, to the Divine Being. Thank you for your divine guidance, divine protection, divine support, and your divine blessing. Please continue to show us divine love, divine light, divine power, along with your divine grace for whatever is for mine and this group's best and highest interest to come to us through this book. And we thank you in making sure this goes for our best and highest interest. And so be it with full faith. Thank you. So today we will be talking about tool number 5. Yesterday we finished chapter 4. So tool 5, make friends with judger. See chapter 4. We are all recovering judgers, page 53 to 62. Purpose. To become more aware and accepting of judger mindset in ourselves and others. Discussion in chapter 4, Ben's growing awareness of his judger mindset causes him to get increasingly frustrated with him. But Joseph helps him to move beyond this seemingly double bind by encouraging him to make friends with Judger. The more accepting and friendly we can be towards Judger in ourselves and others, the more liberated we become to make the best choices in any situation. Our awareness and acceptance of Judger is important because it strengthens our ability to switch to learner. It is in learner that we are most resourceful, strategic, and connected with others. Engaging in each of the following practices will heighten your awareness of Judger. After you complete each one, write down your observations, reflections, and appreciations for the information and freedom that recognizing and accepting Judger provides for you. Practice number 1. Keep a journal and jot down times when you catch yourself and others in Judger. Include any actual Judger questions you notice yourself asking. You might also include any physical sensations or moods you associate with Judger. Practice number 2. Place a rubber band on your wrist and snap it lightly anytime you've been hijacked by Judger. Then each time you snap the rubber band, congratulate yourself for your increasing awareness of Judger. Practice number 3. Allot a 10-minute period in some neutral situation, such as watching TV, to purposefully be as judger as you possibly can be. For example, you might be openly judgmental or critical of a newscaster's hairstyle, voice quality, or clothing. This will heighten your awareness of judger and also your ability to move out of that mindset. And practice number 4, recognize that every time you do these practices, you reinforce your observer self and your ability to operate from learner. This is one of the many benefits we accrue simply by noticing and accepting judger. And practice number 5, don't go judger on your Judger. So, when we do these 5 practices, it's like being more aware that, it's chapter 5, kitchen talk. It was early in the morning when Grace found the choice map I had stuck on the refrigerator door the night before. As usual, I awoke to the smell of fresh coffee and made my way downstairs to the kitchen. Grace is always up before me. She is one of those people who wakes up cheerful and enthusiastic about each new day. I am just the opposite, and I know it sometimes puts Grace on edge. She claims that I am like a bear coming out of hibernation in the morning. I don't think I'm quite that bad, but I don't exactly start the day off with a song in my heart. As I entered the kitchen, I found Grace standing in front of the refrigerator with her back to me. She appeared to be engrossed with the choice map. I was immediately worried about what she might say. I was pretty sure she'd start probing, and I'd had to tell her the whole thing about my trouble at work and all the rest of it. That would lead to how I'd gotten the choice map and why I'd posted on the refrigerator. Then I might have to tell her about why Alexa had referred me to Joseph, and that could turn into an emotional minefield. While I was worrying about how I would avoid telling her the whole story, Grace suddenly turned around and gave me a big hug. Where did you get this? She asked. It's terrific. She took the choice map off the refrigerator door and started waving it around in her hand. I mumbled something about it being a handout for a special training at work and then poured a cup of coffee for myself and one for Grace. I'm amazed, she asked. I've already learned something from this. You remember the message I left you about Jennifer, my assistant at work? I guess I've been riding her pretty hard lately. I can just feel her cringing any time I get within a few feet of her. Looking at the choice map, I realize I've been a real judger with her. Like it says here, I'm sure that's put her on edge. She's been messing up a lot, but this makes me wonder if I've been contributing to the problem. After all, nobody does their best work when their boss is expecting the worst from them. It's all in the kinds of questions you ask. I didn't even think before the words just popped out of my mouth. What questions? Grace asked. I don't ever get that far with poor Jennifer. According to this guy Joseph who gave me this map. Wait, Grace interrupted. Who's Joseph? I stared at her blankly for a moment, debating about whether to tell her the truth. I decided to keep things simple. He's this consultant Alexa hired. I told her, determined not to go into any more details than absolutely necessary. Yesterday, right after meeting with Joseph, I'd spent an hour studying the map, preparing answers for any questions Grace might have. He claims that most of the time, we are not even aware of the questions we ask ourselves or other people. That's why the choice map teaches. It's a reminder to look carefully at those questions because they affect how we think and act and how other people respond to us. Grace looked puzzled. I pressed close to her and pointed to the little guy at the crossroads. There's the key right there, I said, pointing to the words thoughts, feelings, circumstances near the figure's head. The moment anything happens to us, that's when we start asking ourselves questions. The sooner we recognize what we are asking, the better. That way, we have more options. Was this really me talking? I was amazed At how much I recalled of Joseph's teachings, the more we talked, the more comfortable I was getting with this QT stuff. The main thing I see are these two paths, Grace said, tracing first one and the other with her finger. Take the learner route and you'll move right along. See, this guy is saying, what do I want? What are my choices? The other one is asking, what can I learn? Oh, you're right. These are all questions. And the guy on the judge path, he's caught up with different questions like whose fault it is, what's wrong with them. I'll tell you, Ben, at the office, every time I hear a pin drop or somebody sigh, the first thing that pops into my head is, oh Lord, what's wrong now? What else can Jennifer possibly mess up? And then in a flash, I'm down on her. Do you know what she did yesterday, Ben? Shio, hold it. That's taking me right into judge territory, isn't it? The way it works, I explained, is that from moment to moment, stuff happens, good stuff and bad stuff. It sort of hits us unawares. Then, especially if we have a strong judge habit, our questions tend to follow that same pattern. If we are in a learner, we'll ask questions in that direction. Action follows thought. Grace added, it's a basic principle, but I never thought about in terms of questions. Action follows question. Seems to me the trick is that just to keep ourselves in a learner frame of mind. So what's happening now is very simple. Since he has the choice map and he's put it on the refrigerator, and his wife, Grace, has now seen and she's amazed with what the choice map, or just looking at the choice map, whatever is written there, can do for her life situation at work. But what's more important to realize or see is when the main character Ben is explaining, trying to explain the choice map to his wife. He seems that he's much more confident and he can explain it in a better manner. You know, it's very important for whatever you learn, whatever is it that you learn, till the time that learning or that knowledge is not processed in our day-to-day life experiences, the actual lesson will not come. As I've said it earlier, any knowledge that is coming to you is coming for a reason. It's not just coming just like that. But in order to get to that reason, in order to get to that lesson, we have to practice it. And one of the most effective ways to practice is, but yes, it's a very big caution, is to practice teaching it to others. Because when you start practicing teaching it to others, deep down, you are actually revising whatever you've learned. And in that process, you actually get a lot of insights of where you think that you were, probably on the learner's path, but you were actually on the judge's path. And it happens with me personally a lot of times where I, asking the learner questions in my mind, convinced that I'm on the learner's mode. It's when I'm working with the other person, suddenly that thought comes, I've been asking judging questions the whole time. And I've been operating from that judge's mindset the whole time. And snap, then you get to that point and then you try to, switch from the judge's mindset to the learner's mindset. So I encourage everybody, please take out printouts of your choice map. Please share it with your family members. Please share it with your office people and let them ask questions. Because that's a way for you to practice it. And whatever is it that you feel that is not, you need more explanation, we have the book, we have a session every day on weekdays. You can always come and discuss. But if you do not practice it now, strong chances you would not get to it after this book. Because action is the most important aspect for everything. Because अगर हमने उसमें एक्शन नहीं लिया, आज नहीं लिया, chances are strong कि कल भी शायद ना हो. I'm not saying impossible, but chances are कि कम हो. But हाँ, if we started today and we share it with others at home, others at work, without having a thought that they will be on the judger mindset and they will judge you what is wrong with you, because you are now aware everybody is a judger at one point of time, including you and including others. And there is nobody who is free from this judger mindset. Each and everyone present here and in your surroundings, at your home, at work, your friends, whatever, anything outside of you, everybody will be going through a judger mindset some point of time here or there, including you yourself, including me. So it's natural. But the more we share this choice map with others, the more we get people to, work with this map and work with them on this map, the more you will be able to instill this quality of being on the learner's mindset for a prolonged period of time. And whenever you are in that judger mindset or that judger mode, you will be able to snap out of it quickly and effectively. According to Joseph, I told Grace, it's natural to slip into judger now and then. In fact, we alternate between the two mindsets all the time. It's just human nature. Even as I said those words, I was thinking about the argument she and I got into that day. I dropped her at the airport. I was still feeling embarrassed about how I treated her. I wasn't ready to go into all that with Grace, but at least I summoned up the nerve to mention part of it. It's so easy to get into judger, I said, carefully choosing my words. For example, the other day I was trying to pull out into traffic and nearly got hit by a taxi that was going about twice the speed it should have. I instantly went into a judger. It was like a bolt of lightning. It happened that fast. In an instant, I was ready to punch the guy out. Sometimes you really worry me, Grace said, shaking her head. My shoulders tensed up and I was on the verge of defending myself. I knew she didn't approve of my driving habits, though I've never had an accident. We've gotten into arguments about this, but this time, a part of me stopped and said, "Don't go there, buddy." Took a deep breath, shrugged my shoulders, and just tried to keep things easy and relaxed. It's just an example. What I now see, thanks to Joseph's choice map, is how that close call immediately put me in judgment. I was angry as hell for the next couple of hours. It was a judger hijack. When you are in a state of constantly being in a judger mode, trying to switch to a learner's mode, but somehow you're not able to do that, it's actually termed as a judger hijack, where there is so much of overpowerment of that judger mindset on you that even if you want to switch, there is a part of you that is enjoying being in the judge's mindset. And that is a reality. Because it's interesting, हमारे साथ लाइफ में ना बहुत चीजें होती है where we want to do, I want to do this and I know how to do this, but somehow I don't do that. For example, if I want to go and buy food from this outlet, or if I want to go and say this a particular thing to somebody, I know I have to go there, buy that food, or I have to go there and talk to this person. I can prepare my speech in advance, everything. But I do not want to walk that path. It happens with a lot of people and in a lot of situations. Where does that come from? It comes from the fact that deep down there is that part of you who is enjoying being the judger. And that part of you which is enjoying being the judger hijacks the other self. And it happens very commonly. So when you're constantly trying and you know what has to be done, but you are in that state of a judger hijack. I really wanted to tell Grace the whole story about how I'd lumped together everything I had been experiencing lately. I had been stewing about whether or not to resign. I was irritated about having to meet with Joseph. I was hurt, worried about my whole career going up in a smoke, and angry with Grace for pressurizing me about our relationship in the midst of all this. My life had become just one big well, one big judge's pit, I guess, and I had been sinking in the mud. I tensed all over as I realized I had been as much of a challenge to Joseph as that judgmental superintendent he told me about. The first day I slouched into his office, certain that meeting with him was a hopeless waste of my time. In the mood I had been in, it was a miracle anything he said had gotten through to me. Now I was telling Grace about Joseph's ideas as if I actually knew what I was talking about. I'm thinking this map is a good reminder of what happens to me when I get stuck in one of my judges' heads. Grace said. She turned away for a moment and sat down at the breakfast table. She sipped her coffee and nipped toast as she studied the map before her. I continued standing leaning against the counter, watching her. After a moment, Grace looked up a little shyly. Maybe this could help us, in our relationship, she said. What do you think? There was not the slightest hint of blame or judgment in her voice. I was really grateful for that. Joseph says that life is filled with those moments when something hits us and sets us off on one path or another. But what do you think, Grace asked? I mean, about it helping us, you and me. This time, I thought I detected a bit of an edge in her voice. She really wanted me to tell her exactly what I was thinking. As I said, I answered, I think it applies well to any and all areas of our lives. We can all use better tools. What's that supposed to mean, better tools? She asked, sounding definitely irritated. I tried to ignore Grace's eyes. So far, our conversation had gone so well, I didn't want it to turn sour. I was already asking myself, what stupid thing did I say to mess things up again? And why did she bring up our relationship in the first place? Talk about bad timing. And then I caught myself. Those simple little questions were pushing me right down the judge's path. This time, though I saw it coming. I imagined Joseph as a coach on the sidelines shouting to me, Learner, learner, remember the choice map. Change your questions. You can turn this around. Almost instantly, a new question occurred to me. How can I keep things positive between us? Sorry, Grace was saying, I just realized I was starting to go judger on you. For a moment, I felt puzzled, then relieved as it dawned on me what had happened. Grace had started going down the judger path. We both had. And then she stopped herself, and so did I. Amazing. In spite of myself, I smiled. What are you smiling about? Grace asked. She got up from the table, took her dishes to the sink, then turned to face me. Sweetheart, I said, you're wonderful. I took her in my arms and held her close. She stiffened but quickly softened and hugged me back. Do you remember that night when we had dinner at the Metropole and I was late? I asked. I felt her nod her head against my shoulder. We really got into it, didn't we? About who got their times mixed up. Then you did a remarkable thing. You suddenly just dropped the whole argument and everything shifted. We got connected again. Do you remember? I sure do. She chuckled and planting a kiss on my cheek. It was difficult being serious while remembering that night, but I really wanted to get my point across. Joseph talks about switching from judger to learner and how we can do that with a single question. Like when I ask myself, do I want to win this argument or do I want to have a good time? Grace drew away from me but kept her hands on my shoulders. Is that how you do your magic? I asked. Some of it, she said, leaning into me again, but I never thought of it in terms of questions. So it's interesting to see when you are in that zone of being consciously aware, of catching yourself, going into that judger pit, going into that judger path, and then just by, simple questions. And, it does not take much. Honestly, it does not take much. It just needs to have a small intention. Do I want to win in this argument or this person over this person, show him down, or do I want to have a good time? A lot of things annoy you, a lot of things annoy me. Everybody goes into the judger path. If you are in a relationship, when there are two people involved, you will also go into a judge's path. The other person will also go into a judge's path. It's but natural. But the point is, if we are now aware with this new knowledge coming to us that there is another choice available to us, and all we need to do now is make a conscious effort to change that question and switch. Do I want to win in argument or do I want to have a good time? Do I want to show the other person down or do I want to have a good time? Do I want to show to the world who am I? Do I want to have a good time? And when you come up with that question, what is it that you need to do in order to have a good time? That is where you stop your judge's mindset there and then and switch to the learner's lane. Indirectly, you tell your ego, Pandrak, the other person and my good time is more important than anything else at this point of time. So, judge's mindset is a strong part of your egoistic part of the mind, which is always giving judgments, always giving labels. I'm serious, I said, wanting to make certain that I got my point across. I just realized that you are a natural at the very thing Joseph teaches. I'll bet you do it by changing your questions. Even if you're not aware of it, you take yourself straight to learner. That's how you shift your mood. I like those shifts. Me too, I said, hugging her again. I still wanted to know more about how she made those shifts. How did you learn to do that? Before she could answer, the electronic timer chopped up on the stove. Grace always sets it to alert when it's time to get ready for work. Oh no, she sighed suddenly, all businesslike. I'm sorry, Ben. I'd love to call in late, but I really can't. I have an important meeting this morning. In the next instant, she was dashing up the stairs to finish getting ready. 20 minutes later, she kissed me goodbye and raced out the door. When I got around pouring myself another cup of coffee, I glanced at the refrigerator and realized the choice map was gone. Grace had taken it to work with her. As I was getting into my car to leave for the office, I noticed a piece of paper stuck under the windshield wiper. It was hurriedly written note from Grace. Darling, thank you so much for the choice map and especially for the good talk this morning. You can't imagine how much it meant to me. Love, Grace. I'd never expected Grace to take the choice map. I felt great about the note. Clearly, she liked Joseph's ideas. At least for now, I'd redeemed myself in her eyes. That was one less pressure in my life.